Something changed in 1999, and since then, reality has never been the same. Time feels faster, everything repeats, and life seems like a badly edited copy of itself. What if we're trapped in an alternate version of the world? Stay until the end to discover why the future might have collapsed without anyone noticing. Something broke in 1999. It wasn't a visible disaster. No explosions, no official announcements. It was something subtler, deeper. A change imperceptible at first, but devastating over time. As if the future had been quietly shut down, leaving us only with repetition, imitation, and recycling. By the end of the 20th century, everything was accelerating. Culture, music, technology, ideas. But after that, everything froze. The years started to look the same. The decades became indistinguishable. And the strangest part is that no one seems to remember when it happened. Before the year 2000, every era had its own identity. The 60s broke the rules, the 70s screamed rebellion, the 80s overflowed with excess, and the 90s mixed nostalgia with digital anxiety. But as soon as we crossed the threshold of the new millennium, something went dark. There was no new cultural movement, no new aesthetic. Everything began to copy itself. Fashion recycled old decades. Music became loops disguised as innovation. Even technology, which was supposed to amaze us, became monotonous, functional, soulless. It's as if we stepped onto an infinite treadmill, believing we're moving forward while we're stuck in the same place. Explanations emerged. The rise of the internet, the spread of algorithms, the mass manipulation of perception. But these are only fragments of a bigger truth. It feels deeper, as if the timeline had folded in on itself, as if our choices no longer change anything, as if free will itself had become a well-programmed illusion. Some call this temporal convergence, the moment when all possibilities lead to the same end. No matter what you do, everything drags you toward the same destiny. And that connects with another date. 2012, the year many mocked for the supposed Mayan prophecy about the end of the world. But it wasn't the physical world that ended. It was something else. It was the idea of the future that collapsed. Since then, what once felt possible became blurry. Choices lost their weight. Alternative paths stopped appearing. What followed was a routine disguised as progress. A simulation, yes, but a beautiful one. Millions began to notice strange details, memories that no longer match reality, movie quotes that changed, logos that looked different. They weren't memory errors. It was the world rewriting itself. They called it the Mandela effect. But it's not just a curious phenomenon. It's a crack, proof that something was reprogrammed without our consent. That crack, small as it seems, exposes a much bigger fracture, the disconnection between consciousness and the structure of reality itself. What began as isolated suspicion turned into a collective feeling. Life no longer flows, it recycles. The same conversations, the same scandals, the same narratives. Even our emotions seem programmed. We shift from fear to excitement, then to emptiness again, in perfect cycles, as if someone were turning an invisible dial behind the scenes. Repetition isn't coincidence. It's a symptom, an echo of something that already happened, but that we keep mistaking for new. That breaking point, according to whistleblowers and ex-military sources, appeared in a classified project known as Looking Glass, a device said to project possible futures. It was reportedly shut down because it always showed the same outcome. No matter what input they tried, every timeline converged into a single ending. Every change led to the same place. Every effort was absorbed by the funnel of a fixed destiny. That doesn't just destroy the idea of the future. It destroys the ability to imagine. And without imagination, there is no freedom. Since then, everything feels predictable. Not because we understand it better, but because uncertainty itself has vanished. Reality is no longer built from what we dream, but from what we repeat. 2012 wasn't a mystical date. It was the beginning of time without novelty, the moment when the unexpected became improbable. Algorithms learned to simulate us so well that we stopped acting and started reacting. Every click, every scroll, every like is another line of code in a simulation we didn't design but still play along with. The digital world didn't just capture our attention, it captured our internal rhythm. Social media reprogrammed our priorities. It's no longer about living, but about appearing alive. The collective consciousness was absorbed by immeasurable logic, metrics, likes, followers, and with that something sacred vanished, the sense of the present. The here and now became content. Memory became data. Emotion became algorithm. Everything is measurable, everything is manipulable, but nothing is truly alive. And without a real present, time loses its depth. Weeks feel like days, months like blinks. We no longer remember what a prolonged experience feels like. Everything is fragmented. Everything is immediate. And in that immediacy, memory disintegrates. Not because we don't want to remember, but because there's nothing new to remember. Nothing new exists. Only stylized repetitions of what already was. An endless loop with no surprise, no depth, no transformation. What we're living through isn't just the acceleration of time. It's the distortion of perception. And that distortion doesn't come only from screens or devices. It comes from something deeper, a rupture with mystery itself. Life became predictable not because it's simple, but because it's been systematically reduced. Everything that doesn't fit, everything unexplainable, is mocked, ignored, or turned into shallow entertainment. Critical thinking became a threat to a system that demands efficiency, obedience, and productivity without reflection. The Looking Glass Project, remote viewing experiments, Schumann resonance spikes, quantum anomalies, and collective memory glitches. They're not conspiracies. They're signals. Evidence that our reality has been filtered, edited, perhaps even redirected. The constant déjà vu, the repeated numbers, the absurd coincidences, they're residues of a system that collapsed silently. We live among fragments of discarded timelines, in a version of the world that was never meant to be the original, or the desired one. And in the midst of all this, we keep functioning. We keep producing. We stay connected to a time that no longer beats with us but against us. Productivity stopped being a tool. It became the purpose. We work more, feel less, connect constantly, yet remain alone. The system doesn't just organize us, it consumes us. Every moment becomes a resource, every emotion a metric, every silence a failure to perform. Freedom is no longer denied through repression. It's erased through constant distraction. Meanwhile, culture imitates its own ruins. Movies, music, politics, all trapped in self-referential loops. There are no revolutions, no turning points, just content. The present has become a continuous performance. But when everything is a performance, nothing matters. When everything is urgent, nothing transforms. What once seemed like an age of infinite progress turned into a maze of repetition. Recycled ideas, hollow causes, movements without direction. The system doesn't ban dissent. It trends it, sterilizes it, monetizes it, and forgets it. And without real memory, there is no identity. We've become fragments. Profiles, labels, data. We define ourselves by what we show, not what we feel. By how we're perceived, not by who we are. The inner self has been replaced by the interface. Subjective experience has been colonized by approval metrics. The system doesn't need to convince us. It only needs to keep us busy, distracted, chasing something that never arrives. Because that's the final trick. There is no future. only an endless update of the present. And that's how the illusion survives. A life without pauses, without wonder, without escape. If you feel like time is slipping away, you're not alone. This reality sustains itself through repetitions we've stopped questioning. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, leave your like, comment your thoughts, and watch our next video. See you soon.